Do you like the neighborhood you are living in?
Yes, I would say that I really enjoyed the neighborhood where I'm living. It's a really quiet neighborhood, and it's well-organized neighborhood. I say this because the streets are organized at a right angle, that is something I really like. There is plenty of fun spaces for pedestrians to walk as well.
Describe the neighborhood you live in now.
Besides the things I already stated, I would say that many foreigners live in my neighborhood. Somebody told me that up to 50% of people are from abroad. And I'm not surprised by that because I have seen plenty of foreigners when I'm walking in the neighborhood. There are also plenty of green surfaces with a lot of benches where you can sit and relax in the shade when the day is hot.
Did you ever live in a bad neighborhood?
No, every neighborhood where I lived was not bad. I moved several times in my life. I lived in many places for a long time, several times. And every time when I moved to a new neighborhood, it was perfectly fine. I never had any issues. I never had any problems with my neighbors. I always lived in pleasant places. I think I was just lucky.
What did you do for fun in your neighborhood?
Well, here I want to talk about my neighborhood, the one in which I live right now. I like to walk along the street and sitting on those benches that I mentioned. Because it's a really calm neighborhood, you really have the option to be at peace. It's like you're meditating.
Do you prefer neighborhoods in cities or in the towns?
I prefer the neighborhoods in large cities because I'm a cosmopolitan person. I'm somebody who really likes to be among a lot of people. I know that this might sound strange to you because I already said that I lived in a peaceful neighborhood and that I enjoyed the peace. But just because there are a lot of people living in a neighborhood doesn't mean that neighborhood is gonna be noisy.
You will have 60 seconds to prepare, and then you will speak for between 60 to 120 seconds. Start speaking now.
My favorite subject in school was history. The reason why I really love history is because I'm somebody who just likes the stories from the past. I mean, people from history are just like us. They had the same challenges, the same desires, and it's really interesting to listen about the events in which they were involved. It's interesting to see how they dealt with it. Now, I don't know what to say about this. When I think deeply about it, I would say that it was actually really useful. Because when I also faced certain challenges, I remembered how people in the past dealt with those challenges. And I think this was really useful. I think also that the knowledge about history also helped me to be closer to different cultures. So when I meet people that come from different countries, when they saw that I knew about their history, they were more positive towards me. So this was another benefit. I would say that I had a really interesting professor. She didn't use the book, the official book for the teacher. She basically talked to us all the details that are not mentioned in the books. I really appreciate this and I really loved her as a teacher. I would sit in the front row and I listened to her.
What do you think makes a subject in school more interesting? An interesting professor, or if the subject matter is interesting?
I think that both have to align in order for the subject to be interesting. I had a really interesting subjects that I really loved, that I really wanted to study. But because the subject had really bad teachers, I kind of lost the motivation to study them. I also think that you could have a really interesting teacher, but if the subject matter is not interesting, you will also not have the motivation. So I think both have to align.
Can a bad professor ruin an interesting subject in school?
Yes, I think they can. Not just making it uninteresting, but ruin it as you asked me. I had a professor of psychology who was really tough, and he asked us to answer really strange questions. And even if we gave correct answer, he would say that they are incorrect. I think he was just on a power trip, and he wanted to show that he had control over us. This really put me off. I didn't want to study psychology at all.
What do you think should be done to make mathematics more interesting to students?
I think that we should see how mathematics could be applied in real life. I think nobody wants to study dry numbers. But if the teacher also explained to us why mathematics is useful, for example, if the teacher said that complex mathematics are used in order to render characters in video games, that mathematics are important to show the beautiful images in computer games, I think this would really make mathematics interesting for students.
Should parents hire tutors to help them with their subjects, or should the parents help the kids themselves? Which is better?
I think it's much better if the parents hire tutors. I say this because parents don't always have the patience to do that. And I think if the tutor gets hired person that is actually paid to do this and the person who has the patience to work with the child, I think that this will be much better for the kid in the long run.
In your opinion, what subjects do school children struggle the most with?
I think it's the two subjects that are mentioned today. I think it's history, because not everybody shares my view of history. And I think it's also the fact that people see history as being boring. And also maths is also another subject. It's really difficult for people. It's difficult for people because it's difficult to study. And they don't see the point of studying mathematics. Nobody thinks that they will use math in their lives.